What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Universal Drummer. I'm Wade. Gonna talk drummer gifts today because it is that time of year again. I got a whole list ranging from cheap to expensive. Wanted to have something there for everyone. I love these kind of videos. I'm a window shopper, so gonna try and have some fun stuff there. First and foremost, if you are shopping for a family member or a friend that plays drums and you just don't know that much about drums, really safe bet. And I know it's super boring, but cash, it's so helpful. I know I breathe a sigh of relief whenever I get a gift card or something like that because I have a laundry list of things that I need fixed on my kit or little just like boring hardware pieces that would make my life easier, or just I need to re-up on like my specific sticks or my heads. And on that note with sticks and heads too, uh, let them buy their sticks and their heads. Cymbals too. A lot of these things are very preference based off of our heroes and stuff. So going to Guitar Center and asking just like what a good stick is, there's a good chance it's not going to be what your friend or family member uses. So you're better off if you're going to go that route, just give them the cash to let them, or the card to let them purchase that for themselves. That being said, some cool gifts. I think some really fun ones are actually books. First and foremost, our two books, both kind of centered around what goes on up here, helping the musicians get more connected with the music that they're playing, getting over their anxieties, judgment, and really connecting with why we play music to begin with. These are, of course, Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner, and then The Inner Game of Music by Barry Green. Barry Green's book, by the way, is based upon The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galway. Both of these books have a track record of working for a ton of people. They are both books that are worth just having as a musician. Good flipping through, getting out of the way of yourself a little bit. The third book is Creative Quest by Questlove. Questlove is one of my favorite drummers, and this book is awesome. It's autobiographical, but it also just talks about his approach to creativity, how he thinks about things. He approaches creativity in a very matter-of-fact, kind of egoless way that makes it feel approachable to anyone, and really helped guide some of my practice and helped me explain some things that I'd never really been able to put my finger on. Quest is a wonderful drummer. I was blown away at just the eloquence with which he described some kind of complex things that I'd had in my head. He's very humble, very creative, and very grounded, and it's definitely worth reading. Would fit well on any musician's bookcase. Moving into kind of more gear side of things, everybody talks about this, but earplugs are so important, whether or not you're buying cheap ones or expensive ones. It's worth having a box of like foam earplugs, especially if you teach. My students forget their earplugs all the time, especially if you have friends come in and sit in on your band practices. You don't have to be playing loud to give yourself hearing damage. These are your main interaction with music, and it's worth protecting them. So some cheap ones. Heroes make good ones. Those are the ones I use, just like the Heroes small rubber ones. That being said, Sounds Like a Drum, really cool YouTube channel. They did a feature on the new Earpiece Music Pros. It just looks like a good company, a good product. I really trust this YouTube channel. They put in a ton of work. And so my next pair of earplugs, I will probably buy based on their endorsement alone, and I think that it's worth looking into. Higher end earplugs are great as well, even in-ear monitors that you can play music through. I am not an expert when it comes to pro audio type stuff. I'm not qualified to give input in that regard. Another really good drum gift idea is a Tama QC8 cymbal clamps. They're the little black ones with the red squeezy things on them. You can buy them standalone or in a pack of 4. I like them because sometimes when you're in a dark venue, it's nice to not have to be like spinning a wing nut off if you want to do a cymbal swap, or if you're like me, where sometimes you pull a cymbal off, throw a splash cymbal on, and do a stack for one song and then pull it off and drop it back on. They're really helpful. I also clamp stuff down on my cymbals. I put cowbells on my cymbal stands, and my threads are a little beat up. Some threading doesn't super agree with that. So that has kind of become my default for that reason as well. The next item on the list are Drumgees, which help you secure things to your snare drum or to your drums, whether you're putting a splash cymbal on the snare, or even like for me, I use a wallet to muffle my snare and it'll come flying off sometimes. I'm going to link that. Should watch that video. You should subscribe and follow Sounds Like a Drum. Seriously, not an understatement, the amount of work that those guys do. I love their channel. I have definitely learned a ton from it. So follow that, check out that product. I'll link where you can purchase it as well. The next item on the list, every drummer needs a drum key. If you don't know what to get a drummer, you could just get them another drum key. We lose ours all the time. Well, technically we don't lose them. There's a multiverse that is directly next to ours that they actually fall through and go into that one. So we're not losing them all the time. It's more of an astrophysics thing. They just disappear from this multiverse. We're not forgetful. My favorite drum key is the DW Plunger Drum Key, which unfortunately, I just lost this week, or which unfortunately just got swallowed up into the nether this week. But they're really cool. They got a little thing you can press and disconnect it from your keys, which is really nice, makes it really easy to get off. Keep in mind, for those of you who try to put drum keys on your keychain, if you have too much weight on your keychain, it can screw up the ignition on your car. There's something to take into consideration. Next item on the list is a good phone tripod. I just bought a cheap one that I found at Best Buy, but I like having a phone tripod that can extend high or low, like 3 feet, 4 feet up off the ground, so that I can get multiple angles. Even if you're not a content creator, being able to watch yourself and listen to yourself and make changes based off of that are super important. You're allowing yourself to sit in the audience's seat. So I would highly suggest getting a tripod. Just Google it. I'm not an expert when it comes to phone filmography type stuff, and I'm sure that there are other YouTube channels if y'all just type in tripod. I would link the one that I got. I don't actually love it. I'm going to replace it at some point, but even alone, it's been working really well. The next two items on the list are some drum muffling options that I thought were really cool that I found in the last year. The first is the Pearl external dampener. It's just like the underside internal dampener that you see on a lot of vintage or vintage reissue snare drums, where you turn a knob and it pushes a felt disc up against the head. Only this one attaches to the rim on the outside, and you can make it touch the head externally, which is, I think, super rad. The next one is the Mr. Muff, Little Muff, which I actually have on the way right now. And they are a lot like a lot of the other muffling options out there, where it attaches to the rim of your snare drum and then rests on the edge of your snare and muffles it. What I like about this one is it's super fluffy and fuzzy. I work with an engineer a lot who is very into hi-fi sound and is very particular about drum noises, buzzing, rattling, things like that. Putting my wallet on the snare, putting earrings on my snare, I can hear them. You can hear them vibrate, you can hear them buzz. And so a muffling option that is super fuzzy, that's not going to generate excess sound, is incredibly important to me. And I like that more than tape because A, you can actually hear tape buzz if you don't secure it enough, and if it becomes loose, it will start to buzz on you. And B, I like having something that does not move with the head. As I hit the head, I like that it naturally gates it. So really excited about that little product. I found the Mr. Muff, Little Muff via the Art of Drumming YouTube channel, another incredible YouTube channel that you should check out. They do a ton of really unique stuff. They do some really cool videos, especially when it comes to emulating famous drum sounds. That's actually where I found this, was their Bob Marley video. I'll link the Bob Marley video and the Little Muff link down there so you can see them in action and know where to get them. The next product is for all of you Ludwig Superphonic or Acrolite users like me. They have that little bead that goes around the middle of the snare, that little raised edge that goes around, that's called the bead. And it makes it really hard to buy snare systems that will fit on that because they will high center on that bead. Independent Drum Lab, one of my favorite companies. They make amazing drums, proprietary cymbals. They have cool shirts also. They make a throw-off that is just for that. And not many people do that, and it is incredibly well made. I put one on my bandmate's snare, and it sounds wonderful. It actually crispened it up a little bit. I think that it makes the snare seat a little bit better as well. So definitely check that out if you've got either of those Ludwig snares or any snare that has that raised bead. They are adjustable. They have movable nuts, so it's easy to get it on the drum. The next item on the list is a good metronome. I think it's worth investing in a physical metronome. Yes, you can download really good apps, but it's nice to be able to have a phone that is videoing you and a metronome where you are, especially because a lot of times the phones will actually shut off your metronome, which I understand there are third-party apps for that. I'm all about ease of access with things. I use the Boss DB90, or the Dr. Beat as they call it. It's the industry standard in the drumline world. I got mine right at the end of high school, and I've used it so much, and it's still hanging on. It's a little finicky, as you've seen in my videos, but it's still hanging on. And I mean, that thing has been through hell. That is a $150, $180 metronome. Pretty expensive, but it has a ton of capabilities. That being said, if that is not something that is within your budget, the DB30 metronome, fantastic little metronome. It's $40, $50. You can probably find them used for even cheaper. Has a lot of the same functionalities. I like having the little sliders where I can turn up my quarter notes, my eighth notes, my 16th notes, my triplets, in order to work on different concepts and play with different subdivisions. Really, really cool product. The next item on the drumming gift list is a trap table or a good tray. There's two options here, and I don't really know enough about what's good or what's bad. I'll just do a link on Reverb or something like that. You can run it off to your left or somewhere next to your kit and put your laptop there, put your phone there, your drink, your tambourine, sticks, mallets, all of the things that you may need throughout a gig. If you don't run that much stuff, another really cool option, they actually make clamp-on ones that you can just attach to your hi-hat stand. Either way, it's nice having somewhere to put your wallet, your different dampening options, just a handful of small things, extremely handy. Next on the list, 3 items that you can find in thrift stores, because I know some of you out there are thrifty. A good drum rug, a good lamp, and a good mirror. Drum rugs, I mean, it's a funny quote from a movie, but they really do tie the room together. It adds to the overall vibe. It really can make your kit pop, especially in a video situation. Worth looking into. If you bounce to a few different thrift stores in a day, you're sure to find one, even if you got to clean it up a little bit. I have one that I just leave in my car because despite being huge companies, sometimes sound companies won't bring a drum rug for the drummer and you're stuck playing on concrete or something like that. Really great to have in your car. The next one is a lamp, which I like to have one that's just kind of like over my head while I play. I can shut off the lights in the room, makes it kind of vibey. It also is great if you're writing stuff out. You can move it around your practice space to light it up as you need it. When you're shooting video, it never hurts to have more light options and variety. They can just really also honestly tie the room together, make a room look really cool. The third item is like a good, like, I think they call them vanity mirrors, like a foot and some change by 3 feet. Something that you can set up and watch yourself play, because along the lines of videoing yourself, being able to see your hands while you play, being able to see your mannerisms while you play is super important. There's a reason why every college that I've been to, at least, their drum practice room had a mirror set up in it. You got to be able to see yourself to make changes, and you can only see so much when your only perspective is point of view. Along the subject of hand technique are 2 courses that are really great for improving your technique. The first is from Bill Bachman, who is a renowned drum corps, like marching band player, but who has a very intuitive and well-designed course called Drum Workout. I'll link it below. Just kind of slowly moves you through some steps and improves your playing. His logic, his understanding of physiology and anatomy as he's playing is incredibly impressive. The organization of his page is great. He will also interact with you and give you advice should you need it. He has multi-tiered plans. I believe the cheapest one is $20 a month, which gets you a ton of access to resources. Yes, there are a lot of videos out there on hand technique, but this is incredibly in-depth and from someone who has wicked chops. The drum corps dudes literally focus on their hands. They're incredibly knowledgeable on the subject. And he's done a great job of going from sort of that rigid structure to designing something that is based off of avoiding tension and all of the things that, to me, are the goal of hand technique. The second technique course is from Chad Wackerman, whom I discovered via Frank Zappa. Chad Wackerman studied with Murray Spivack, who is one of the masters of hand technique. There's a handful of methods, Jim Chapin, a bunch of things. Chad Wackerman's curriculum is just set up very well. Murray did such groundbreaking things with technique. It's worth jumping into, even if you've already focused on the Jim Chapin stuff or the Freddie Gruber stuff or even your own teacher's approach. It's always good to just balance it with a totally different approach. And honestly, for $150, someone like Chad Wackerman, sitting down and getting time with him is incredibly expensive. For $150, that is an absolute steal and a ton of information that you're going to take with you for the rest of your life. Getting back to the gear side of things is an individual that I found through Instagram, named Timothy Roberts, who owns Reverie Drums, Stackering Percussion, Mod Cymbals. I found him because he makes a cymbal that sounds so much like my favorite drummer, Brian Blade's ride cymbal from a number of years ago. But the coolest thing about him is that for like $85 to like $200, you can send in your cymbal and make little changes to it. He can do some lathing, some hammering, some stuff like that. He's got a wonderful ear, finding those like pesky, gnarly frequencies on your ride. Rather than spending $700 on a ride cymbal, you can just have him do a little bit of work to yours and make it sound absolutely wonderful. I'll do a link to his order page. You should also follow him on Instagram. I'll just do his name really quick. Yeah. He also has a YouTube channel where he tests a lot of his gear and explains a little bit of his process of cymbal smithing. He also has a podcast that's great. Tim's a pro. He's got a podcast also that's worth listening to. Recently, he sat down with Paul Francis. Check that out as well. The next item on the list is from drumsupply.com, which they just sell parts and sticks and drums and heads, and they just sell it all. But what's really cool is they do DIY snare drum kits, where they give you the shell, all the parts, the heads, the rims, all that thing, where they give you a bunch of the parts for your snare drum, and then you assemble it yourself. They have a 6.5 by 14 DIY snare kit with a copper shell, which, like, copper phonics are so expensive. This comes with a 6.5 by 14 copper shell, pre-drilled, comes with heads, 2.3 chrome triple flanged hoops, strainer and butt plate, chrome over brass tube lugs, 14-inch snare wires, and tension rods. All for $365, probably some shipping on top of that. That's nuts. And they have kits. They have wood snare kits. They have, I think, an aluminum, steel, well, like all the standard options to build a famous snare drum for a fraction of the price. It's really incredible. Worth looking into for those of you DIY fans out there. And the last item on the list is something that I'm very excited about that I want to buy. It is currently out of stock, but I would just get on the email list if this is something that interests you so that you can pre-order it when they have more in, and that is Zikit. And it is essentially a mechanism that raises different size bearing edges within your snare drum and allows you to have like a 14-inch snare, whatever, a 14-inch snare, a smaller snare, and a smaller snare all inside of one. You turn a lever and it engages one of them. Allows you to have 3 drums in one. So you could do your DIY snare kit from Drum Supply, throw a Z kit on the inside, and have your independent Drum Lab snare mechanism, and have that thing sounding absolutely incredible. Really worth checking out, and have a absolute asset of a snare drum. Worth checking out. I'd imagine that they'll have some more in here soon. Fingers crossed. I really want to get one as well. Really great, really valuable asset if you're a session musician or live. Being able to change your snare drums on the fly, that's pretty exciting. That's about as expensive as I'm looking to go for this list right now. Hope that I provided some options that maybe people hadn't suggested before. Some honorable mentions, though, are studio rings, gaff tape, packs of little cymbal felts, shaky stuff, so like tambourines, maracas, egg shakers, little ching rings like the discs with tambourine jingles on them, sleigh bells. Definitely Google those and see if some small companies are making them. A lot of small companies come up with ideas or modify ideas and do things for a long time, and then the bigger corporations come in, take their idea, and steal a ton of business from them. Support small businesses if you can. I can guarantee you, buying something like Stackering Percussion's fun little toys, you're going to benefit Timothy a lot more than you are adding to just a minuscule amount of profits to Meinl or something like that. So anyways, take that into consideration as you indulge your consumerist side this winter. Until next time, this is the Universal Drummer. I'm Wade. Hope you have a great rest of your day.